Look at these images. A spider web. Notice the patterns of creatures has made to make it organized. The ceiling of a Nipa hut and the arrangements of seats in the chase arena in downtown Golden State. Wow, the Golden State Warriors! Go Warriors fans! Did you notice the patterns? You have to understand people that these patterns are made for a purpose. That is to make the web strong and elastic, the ceiling of the Nipa hut bind together, and the dome's capacity and design maximized. Live from Valenzuela City, your Tito Tony. Good morning, greeting. Welcome to our live streaming for English 8. I am your Tito Tony saying, wherever the situations are, education must continue. Our topic today is patterns of idea development. Our most essential learning competency is use appropriate grammatical signals or expressions suitable to each pattern of idea development, namely from general to particular, problem solution pattern, the claim and counterclaim, and the cause and effect. While these are our specific objectives, identify the different patterns of idea development, and second, write paragraphs using different ideas on pattern development. In learning English, people, specifically in reading and writing, there is also a pattern. We have learned that in English communication, it is important to have a clear and organized set of ideas following a logical and consistent pattern. That is, from constructing sentences to paragraphs, essays, we will follow a subject and verb agreement, tenses, the degrees of comparison, and even the rules in parallelism, our last topic. In reading, it is also important to know the author's perspective while the reader is discovering how the tone or the message is being sent by the writer. Remember, the reader and the writer, or also known as the sender and receiver. In other words, to make our reading and writing experience easy and fun, we need to learn the patterns of idea development. There are many types of patterns which are equally important to learn, but today we will focus with the general to particular pattern, that is the first one, and then the problem and solution pattern, the claim and counterclaim pattern, and the cause and effect pattern. So we only have 4 to discuss for today. It's actually very long, so you have to listen. The first pattern, the general to particular pattern. This is also known as from macro skill, macro idea, down to micro idea. It is a pattern of development that begins with the general one or statement and is followed by specific details, the micro ideas, to support and explain. The details may be specific as the development continues. The pattern ends a general statement that summarizes all the details. Because general ideas usually express main point or the main idea of a piece of writing. They present the topic of a paragraph, essay, or even a book and make a statement about it. Usually a claim that needs to be proven. They cover broad categories or groups of people or things and usually expresses the overall aspects characteristics or elements of these categories or groups. It tends to communicate broad topics that need to be explained further if readers are to understand them in depth. General information is normally vague and represents a broad description of something. Example: school children do not like reading. Now, take a look at this. The underword like refers to all the children everywhere. Specific information refers to exact, precise fact or description of something mentioned in the text. Take a look at this one. Brian is in grade 8 and hates reading poems. In this example, poems is the specific topic in reading which Brian doesn't like. You get it? The signal words used in these patterns are, for example, namely, such as, for instance, like, there is, in fact, in other words, indeed. Second pattern, the problem and solution pattern. This is one method of organization composed of two main sections. Remember this one, the problem, and secondly, the solution. The problem and solution pattern is used in a persuasive writing with the aim to convince the reader to support a certain course of action, and next is make the reader change his or her opinion or her mind or behavior by showing that the problem actually exists. Then, of course, providing a solution. In the problem section, the writer aims to, we also have to, identify the different sides of the problem being discussed. And secondly, offer evidence for these problems. And in the solution section, the writer aims to, there are also to, identify a possible solution, and second, support the effectiveness of this solution over the others. The common signal words or expressions used in this pattern are the following. The problem is, the question is, a solution, next one, answer is, a difficulty is, clearly, absolutely, or to solve. Examples. This is a problem. Emerge of recipients gathering in a large group and lining up until wee hours to get their financial assistance from their local government. That is the problem. Solution is, Pasig City opted house-to-house distribution of cash aid. Okay? That is a simple idea. The problem and the solution. Second, problem. Separation and deprivation from human touch are only two of the most difficult parts of coping with the pandemic. This is especially true for COVID-19 patients confined in hospitals who have been isolated from their loved ones for weeks while recuperating from the deadly virus. That is a problem. Probable solution is, a nurse based in Brazil found a way to remedy this. To stimulate from human touch, Lydian Mellow filled two latex globes with warm water, tied them together, and placed them on a patient's hand. Okay? That is a problem. That is an example of a problem solution, and you also have to imagine the creativity of that nurse from Brazil. Okay? Third, the claim and the counterclaim pattern. First, we need to understand that a claim is a statement that presents an arguable position. It reflects your interpretation, belief, or opinion. The claim typically answers the question, what do I think? To respond to a claim by denying it with a corresponding reason or evidence is to make a counterclaim. That is your claim, then this one is the counterclaim. Because the counterclaim is the strongest argument against the claim. A counterclaim pattern refers to the structure of an argument where there is more than one side to debate. It is very common in academic writing. In claim-counterclaim texts, arguments are typically introduced using reporting verbs such as show, argue, and claim. Example, this is a claim. I believe that Japanese literature was heavily influenced by cultural contact with China and their literature because the early Japanese literary works were often written in classical Chinese. Reason or evidence to counter the claim. Counterclaim. According to my research, it was Indian literature that had an influence on Japanese literature through the propagation of Buddhism in Japan. If you notice, the claim and counterclaim patterns can be found more frequently in political journalism, as well as letters to the editor, magazines, and argumentative speeches. The signal words can be used are, in lexical terms, we have to know that the purpose is claim, assert, give the truth, or it's false. We can also use evaluative words, which the function is to make a denial, contradict, challenge, or even correct. And then the transitions is affirmation, to affirm, agree, confirm, and according to. Now the words imagine, likely, might, perhaps, probably, seem, suggest. Lexical terms are words that denote concrete objects, ideas, events, and etc. because they can also be called as context words because they carry ideas. To counterclaim or argue a claim, consider a different opinion or a contrary view, then provide evidence that would back up your argument. Last is our fourth and last for the day, the cause and effect pattern. Events in a literary works are often connected by cause and effect. This means one event is the reason after another event happens. The event that happens first is the cause, while what follows is the effect. It can be an event, it can also be the change in the way the character behave or thinks. There are keywords and phrases that point out cause and their effects. Some of these are because, therefore, since, in order, so that, and if, then, due to, and accordingly. Now people, for us to know, let's have an activity number 1. Okay? Direction is, read the following sentences and then underline the signal words used in the general to particular pattern. That means you have to use your module. Ready? Number 1. This toy helps children discover their abilities. In other words, children can learn new things from this toy. 5 seconds. The answer is, in other words. Number 2. Many people prefer a particular type of car. For example, sports cars are very popular. 5 seconds. The answer is for example. Number 3. Angelo can play several musical instruments such as violin, a guitar, saxophone, and piano. The answer is such as. Number 4. Rare indeed is the chance to witness the breathtaking power of a storm surge. The answer is indeed. Number 5. They brought a lot of food, namely pasta, pork, sandwiches, and soda. Wow. 5 seconds. The answer is namely. Number 6. Car companies like BMW and Ford produce sports cars in America and Asia. 5 seconds. The answer is like. The word like. Number 7. High protein meats such as chicken, beef, and pork are excluded from his diet. The answer is such as. Number 8. Virtues like patience and self-control are necessary for this position. 5 seconds. The answer is the word like patience, self. Number 9. Students, namely Pat, Mora, Levi, and Oscar are given special assignments. 5 seconds. The answer is namely. Last, number 10. Fruits like pomelo, calamansi, and guava are rich in vitamin C. 5 seconds. The answer is the word like. Okay, so speaking of like, people, if you've got 6 and above correct answer, please press the heart react button. And if you've got 4 and below answers, or not correct answers or incorrect answers, just press the like react. Okay. Now people, I guess this is enough about the pattern of ideas and the developments and the exercises. We will now proceed with the assessment section for our teachers or your teachers to know what you have learned, or have you already learned something about this lesson? Okay, 1 to 10. Direction is combine the sentences below using appropriate connectives pertaining with the patterns of ideas. Just write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Okay. Number 1, the choices are if, when, because, or since. That is what you're going to write in between these two ideas to be combined together. Okay, I will read it once. The plant is deprived of water, blank, it wilts and dies. The correct answer is if. The plant is deprived of water if it wilts and dies. Number 2. The root system of the plants is not large enough to trap the water in the soil. Blank, the soil dries out very quickly and the young plant dies. Choices are since, because, thus, or as a result. 5 seconds. The answer is the word or the phrase as a result, because it says here the root system of the plants is not large enough to trap the water in the soil, and as a result the soil dries out very quickly and the young plant dies. Number 3. The soil erosion is weak. Blank. Large quantities have to be given if the plant is to receive sufficient nutrition. Choices are as a result, therefore, since, or if. 5 seconds. The answer is therefore. Okay, I will read. The soil erosion is weak. Therefore, large quantities have to be given if the plant is to receive sufficient nutrition. Number 4. The root development is poor. Blank. The crop is undernourished. Choices are consequently, as a result, when, or if. 5 seconds. The answer is the word when. The root development is poor when the crop is undernourished. Number 5. Rainfall was far below normal. Blank. Farmers lost many crops. Choices are consequently, therefore, thus, as a result. 5 seconds. The answer is the word thus. Rainfall was far below normal. Thus, farmer lost many crops. Number 6. Living things die. Decomposers break down dead plants and animals. Blank. The chemical elements from their bodies are returned to the environment and are again available to plants for photosynthesis. Choices are since, when, because, and as a result. 5 seconds. The answer is the phrase as a result. And may I read? Living things die. Decomposers break down dead plants and animals, and as a result, the chemical elements from their bodies are returned to the environment and are again available to plants for photosynthesis. Number 7. Rich topsoil is washed away by running water. Blank. It causes floods during the rainy season. Choices are thus, as a result, when, or because. 5 seconds. The answer is thus. Rich topsoil is washed away by running water, thus it causes floods during the rainy season. Number 8. Destruction of watersheds brings about soil erosion. Blank. A river or a lake reduces its capacity to hold water. Choices are as a result, when, since, if. 5 seconds. The answer is the word when. May I read? Destruction of watersheds brings about soil erosion when a river or a lake reduces its capacity to hold water. Number 9. The products of organic decomposition and respiration go back to the environment and are given use by plants for food making. Blank. The flow of materials in the living world is described as cyclic. The choices are because, therefore, since, when. The answer is the word because. May I read? The products of organic decomposition and respiration go back to the environment and are given use by plants for food making because the flow of material in the living world is described as cyclic. Number 10. The land use is wisely managed. Blank. We can achieve an effective ratio of areas allotted to forest, agricultural lands, industrial lands, and residential lands. The choices are so that, when, consequently, since. 5 seconds. The answer is the word since. And may I read? The land use is wisely managed since we can achieve an effective ratio of the areas allotted to forest, agricultural lands, industrial lands, and residential lands. For today's question and answer, my friends, key in questions that you want me to clarify. You have a minute to do that. From Mapulang Lupa National High School, the question is, what is important knowing the patterns of development? The answer is, patterns of development help us sort out information, and with that is to shape the paragraphs or the essay. These developments or patterns of development can help organize an outline, or depending on the purpose, they can determine the form that the paper will take. Remember that most paper will use a combination of methods working together in a function of each other. Okay, number 2. From Maisan National High School, what pattern of development take notes of events that happened in the story and how each scene is described using vivid details? Wow. Okay, the answer is persuasion. This pattern of development take notes of events that happened in the story and how each scene is described through the use of vivid details. This pattern of development arranges event details logically in time, order, and use of appropriate transitional devices such as first, lastly, consequently, and etc. Well, you just have to be aware or to practice using it. Question number 3 from Parada National High School. Question is, why is it important to know the patterns in developing paragraphs? The answer is, when beginning to write, it is helpful to determine the patterns of development that are most effective for your purpose and consider also your audience. Some general patterns of developments are, well, we discussed a while ago, the cause and effect. The details why something happens, what causes it, what are the effects, and how it is related to something else. Question number 4 from Lawang Bato National High School. The question is, why is it important to use patterns in organizing your ideas about a certain topic? Why is it important to use patterns in organizing ideas? The answer is, patterns of organization can help the readers follow the ideas within your writing and also work as methods of development to help you recognize and further develop ideas and relationship in your writing. There are many techniques in writing. I guess you have to be aware or knowledgeable in it. Just practice it using the schematic diagramming or the web map or the concept webbing. It could use or it would help. Alright? Next question please. Last. Any more? Okay. Nothing follows. Thank you so much for those who asked questions. May I say, for other activities, people refer on the items from your modules and continue learning. Your subject teachers will further help you by answering your queries. Do not hesitate to ask. Thank you for being with me today, amigos, my friends. It's been a happy day of learning English. See you next time. This is your Tito Tony saying, anuman ang sitwasyon, tuloy ang edukasyon. Dahil dito sa Valenzuela, may disiplina. Thank you.